Hey guys, my name is Zeniac and welcome back to another pointless city skyline experimental video where today might actually be the first pointless experimental video that is not pointless at all. This could be educational. No, I am not creating educational videos right now, am I? Seems too sus. But guys, welcome back to another experimental video. Well, today, I'm going to answer the question, yo, is it true? Is it true right now that trees are natural sound barriers in city skylines? Wow, I have always thought this. And when I've kind of built cities in the past and used these trees to kind of create them as natural sound barriers from like the traffic noise from the highways, the comment section is always 50-50. It's either, yes, ENIAC, that is an amazing thing that you are doing right now. It is also, you know, creating good environmental growth of trees and reducing noise pollution. And then the other side of the comments is, yo, ENIAC, you know that low-key does not work, right? Get some freaking sound barriers on your highway. That is the only way it works. Well, today, I'm going to find out if that is true or not. Now, the only way your boy learns is by doing it himself. And that is why I've built this beautiful city right now. So, the main factors and main points of this city is there is 2 points of the highway at either ends of the city. Industrials over here and over here as well to promote the driving through the highway that is in the center. Now, the city is functional. I don't care about too much city, so if I start to see traffic, I've got to fight the urge to fix it because that is not the point of today's video. Now, what is good about this city so far is the fact that I have incorporated a bunch of stuffs that generates noise pollution. So what I've done is, my first big one is we have the highway tearing through the middle, and we've only now just starting to get residential growing, so they will be affected by that noise pollution. So with this, I want to try trees down the side and sound barriers to see which is more effective. And, you know, because I just want to debunk the myth or make it factual. I've also got some industrial that produces a lot of noise pollution, and I've also got the wind turbines near the edge of the city which themselves also produce a lot of noise pollution. So I want to find some effective ways to do it, but I ultimately want to find out if trees are natural sound barriers. And not just trees. I want to see if bushes work, if vegetation works. I want to see it all, guys. I want to see it all. So if you do enjoy this experimental video, guys, I want to see more of these in the future on the channel, because I know you guys love your boys' pointless experimental videos, which this is actually educational. I don't know what's going on, guys. I don't know what's going on. Smash that like button if you want to see more, and if you are new around here, to make sure you do subscribe so you are notified that next episode does come out. So, the natural thing to do, and the way the game tells you to kind of reduce noise pollution, so if I bring it back up, that is to go into, for example, get the sound barriers on the highway. Now, can I do this simultaneously? I think I can. So you can kind of see red on the road, creating the noise, then the sound overspills. But if I do it, let's say on these two little bits here, it naturally reduces it, which is obvious because if they didn't reduce it, then you're thinking, well, what is the point of these freaking sound barriers right now? Amazing. They do their job. They do their job so effectively. But it's like, so yeah, what's the point in trees? Well, not everywhere you can put these sound barrier roads. You can't put them on this. I don't think you can. Well, you can. You can to a certain extent, I believe. Where's the... Actually, no, I don't think you can do a singular slip road, can you? 2-lane highway with sound barrier? Not really. But you're then pretty much building a whole city based around sound barriers, and I don't think they look amazing. They look quite ugly. Which is why I've always kind of used trees in the past. So we're gonna test this right now. We're gonna test it. So if I put it back to what it originally was. Alright, there we go. So we are creating the noise pollutions for days. So we know we can literally minimalize it and get rid of it completely, which is amazing. It will slowly start crawling back right now. So let's see if what we can do with the trees. So let me just fast forward then. So we got maximum effectiveness in sound pollutings going around here. So just kind of give it a little bit more time for the vehicles to drive by. And for us to naturally feel those sound issues. Which Yeah, it's pretty good right now. So what I'm going to do, I'm actually going to use the central point of it. And we'll start with just normal trees, right? Should we just go for like some alders? Let's just go for some oak trees, which will be kind of pretty handy. So if I just pause for a hot minute, and what we're going to do is we're going to place a bunch down. So I'm going to do it in a nice big row, like this, and we'll fill it all up. How far can I go down? I pretty much go down to about here. So I'm spamming like crazy. Don't get me wrong, I'm spamming like crazy. But I've got to find out, guys. Because I've always just kind of put them down in the past and then just assumed that they worked as sound barriers. Without checking it. So this is what's kind of questioned me. And I'll do this one in the middle as well. Now, it's probably not safe to do it like that. And I've overpopulated it with trees. But I need to know. So, without putting it into play mode, this is what it is right now. So, we should technically have like a little indentation on the red stuff. Did you see that change straight away? Did you literally see that change straight away? That freaking works. Hold on. The lies people have been telling me in the comment section right now. The lies I've been fed. With people saying it doesn't work. It does work. It does work. And a lot of people are going to be like, yo, Seniac. Yes, obviously it works. Are you so dumb? Listen, I'm very naive, okay? I always believe anything what everybody says is gospel. Maybe I should stop. Maybe I should stop. But I'm planting all this down right now. Do a nice little strip in the middle here. Yes, it's a lot of trees, but I gotta see. Would you look at that right now? Indentations for days. My only problem is, actually, is the fact that I can't do... Oh, okay, dropping down trees left, right, and center. Now, I can plant some down like this, but it doesn't put them down. I've got to manually do it, which is kind of annoying. Is it just enough to do a strip? I think just like a simple strip is enough, isn't it? I haven't got to place them all down like this. So now knowing that trees work, and if I put the strip going all the way down here and in the center, again, to literally minimize as much as I can. Now I know it works. We can apply this logic in many other places. Look at how much I've pushed it over by right now, where all these houses are no longer affected. It's hot and heavy in some other areas where these like stuff join. So in roads where you cannot get a sound barrier implemented, we can really, really heavily reduce the sounds. And it looks good. That's the main thing. It looks good. Now, I could then place these roads down to being sound barriers, and then you get in double money. Like, reduce noise from the sound barrier, the trees added in as well, and everybody lives happily ever after. That looks pretty cool, doesn't it? So I'll leave that bit right now, because I want to see how it all kind of progresses. I do. I actually want to see with this section right now if small bushes work. So we have the small bush right now. So if I pause the game, and let's say I do it around this section to begin with. So if I spam down a load of small bushes right now. Now, could you imagine if the small bushes actually work as a sound barrier? Are you ready? They literally do. Small bushes work as a sound barriers. That's weird. Because of how low they are. But I don't think the game quite thinks of it like that. The game just sees trees and all bushes as the same object in many ways. So if I just keep placing out a bunch of bushes right now and just kind of fill all of this up here, because there's it's a heavy polluter right now in this little section. And then play. That's reduced quite a bit. And how does that look from this side? It's not as good as the trees. Don't get me wrong, it's not as good as the trees right now, but even bushes work. Interesting. Interesting. Now, the other options that I do have then at this point is vegetation. So again, putting a pause on. And then going into the noisings. We have this little bit of an overspill right here, right now. So if I go... Okay, I've got to place it down like this manually. I'm now going to drop down vegetation and see if vegetation, which is now technically overspilling onto the highway. Does vegetation also become a natural sound barrier? You ready? No, it does not. So vegetation does technically not work. Interesting. So you can determine between a tree and a vegetation object, but it can't determine between a tree and a bush. Interesting. Interesting. Now, I've seen people in the past say rocks can also be used as a sound barrier. Now, that is something that I would have said to myself, no, that is not a thing. But again, it's time to debunk. So, do rocks work is the question. Right, so can I gotta... So the fact that I can't spam them down like how I did the trees would then show me that... Nah. And now I'm left with trying to spam click all this to delete. So it's looking like it's only trees and bushes that are really, really going to work. So let's just finalize all this up then. Get the standard oak trees down. Kind of go crazy. And then we'll move on to some other stuff around the city as well. I want to check out the wind turbines. I want to check out the industrial side of it as well. Because what normally happens when you plant down trees around industrial areas, the trees die because the ground is polluted. That's one of the big problems that we kind of have. So let me just kind of spam a load of this stuff down, just kind of get it all in, make it look jazzy. I'll leave the bushes where they are because it is still pretty cool. And then sounds have been heavily reduced. Look at that right now, traffic. Makes me want to fix it. But no, that is not the point of today. So, there we go. For all the peeps that told me in the past that trees don't work as sound barriers, they do. And for all those people that go, Seniac, I knew this anyway. Well, now there's a video to prove it, okay? Now there's a video to prove it. So, I mean, yeah, it would make sense then to drop sound barriers on these roads to kind of get that additional side of it, but have the trees to kind of hide it. It looks really good, doesn't it? I like it, I like it. So that reduces the sound pollutings around there, just kind of then gets contained to the road itself. Now, I've planted down a bunch of other stuff like these little wind turbines. So I think, I mean, naturally, it's a bit difficult to plant trees around a wind turbine just because of it has that little hitbox going around. Now, what could I do in terms of, you know, planting trees around it? So I'm trying my best to get up and around it right now. So if we did something like this, like I've gone so far over the top right now with trees, can this be utilized then to heavily reduce the sounds coming from it? I mean, because you got to think of it, the wind turbine, there's nothing around the region of it. The trees are so low and the blades are so high. So even at this state, it reduces it quite a bit. Now, that's not to say that it's possible to put a wind turbine in someone's back garden, plant some trees around it, and they won't hear a thing. That is not the thing that I'm saying right now. But just maybe sticking a row of trees between the wind turbine and the road, even just doing something like that kind of takes the edge off, right? It's just about taking the edge off, and it allows us then to beautify our cities a bit more. That's so good. I mean, you want to notice it, but like, sound has been heavily reduced. Holy smokes. I'm loving it. I'm loving it. Now, how is it possible to do it in, let's say, like a region like this? Now, it's not high enough that it causes many issues, but when you have high density commercial, which is what we have like over here, this produces more noise than your standard commercial, which has been known in the past that when I've built cities, that some residential built right next to high density commercial does complain that it's too loud. It is a given because a lot of people are walking through here. But we don't really have the ability to plant trees in the front. Now, is planting trees at the back of these buildings considered enough to kind of seep or suck out some of those noise toxins? That's what I want to find out. Because I actually feel like I'm learning quite a bit. And it's something that I can apply to many of the cities that I build. So there's not really much space that I get to do it. Even if I turn Anarchy on, Anarchy allows me to kind of pull it into the tiniest of nooks and crannies, which is a benefit to a certain degree, but not within the hitboxes. So I suppose if you're really, really wanting and you're self-conscious about the noise pollution, I don't know how that would look for you. if that is something that you would kind of want to do in the long run. But if I kind of then finish it off as some type of design or something like that. What does it do to noise pollution then? So from this little section, again, reduces it. It doesn't solve it, don't get me wrong, it doesn't solve it, but it takes the edge off. And I suppose that's what it's kind of all about, isn't it? It's just wherever you can, place down trees or bushes to take the edge off. If you're thinking like, oh, that looks so ridiculous with trees, like being squeezed between the gaps of the buildings, well, we know bushes work just as well. So they can be really, really small and squeezed in and not be as intrusive as trees. So if I did it on this side then, because this should be giving the same noise pollution, yeah. So if I pause right now, and then with the same process, but I'm using bushes instead. It's going down all the little nooks and crannies. So this, again, from what we know, gives the same effect as trees, but it's not so intrusive that it makes all your buildings look ridiculous. And on these tall ones here, you don't even see. So it's a great way to kind of naturally reduce the sound the sound pollution, but also not have it look so freaking ridiculous. And if I do it just down to here. So you get the point of it. You can kind of squeeze it in between the buildings. So even playing now has reduced it a little bit. And how does that look? You wouldn't even know, and you will feel like the bushes are part of the streets and whatnot. You wouldn't know that between all these buildings I've just crammed in a ton of bushes to reduce the sound pollution. And that just makes it a better place for the residents to live near, isn't it? That's cool, man. I'm so impressed. So even with then, like, you know, even this is like small, low density commercial. So where's my trees? Where's my bushes? So in these kind of spaces, you're kind of looking at reducing it with smaller objects, because the trees would stand out because these are smaller buildings. So I just kind of like squeeze between the gaps of each of them, and obviously it does require me to use the anarchy. That's the downside. But even with that small amount, reduced it a little bit more. And if I applied it to this whole section, we could heavily reduce it. I mean, it doesn't really cause much issues anyway, but you got to do what you've got to do in this kind of situations. Now, the next problem would be then. So I kind of know it works for the highway. We've solved that. Well, I say we solved it. We've heavily reduced it. Trees work wonderfully and bushes work wonderfully for the commercial kind of side of things, and even planting them around the wind turbines. But they are naturally noise producing objects, so you're not going to solve it. All you can really do is reduce it. We have stuff like a really, really busy road here. Now, this is like the standard 4-lane road. If I upgraded it to one that's got trees, so if I check the noise pollution, does that naturally reduces it as well. So having different styles of road can really, really help. And I suppose that would be the same. But then again, it's in a polluted area, so the trees, they do die, as you can see. And that becomes quite an issue for us. So if I kind of had that in mind that we're looking at this, how long can a polluted road, well, tree in a road last? Right, before it's no longer efficient. And I say that as I'm now going to upgrade all the roads around here to being roads that have trees on. And I don't think it's going to work. Honestly, I don't think it's going to work because just naturally you are surrounded by huge factories. And they instantly kill the trees. So I think any benefits of having a tree nearby is completely squashed. So that's the next problem. Because when it comes to the pollution, look at the pollution around here. Anything living in this area is going to just die instantly. There's other ways around that you can kind of do it to solve it. But I first want to see if the trees can become a thing. So with the sounds then, if I just pause for a hot minute. And then plant down a bunch of trees that are eventually going to be dead in just a minute. Around, I want to utilize this little section here to see what would happen. So in play mode, it actually does solve it or kind of have some type of a benefit. As you can then see, it did take a little bit of an indentation in. So you ready? A little bit of an indentation in. I think do you reckon it's just visually it gets rid of the trees, but still, it gets rid of the leaves, but it still has them same qualities that you can kind of count on? Now, if I just plant like a bunch around here, so again, just slightly takes the edge off. If I plant it, now these are our incineration plants right now, which these have trees have no business being around this area. But I'm seeing what I can get done. So it takes the edge off slightly. Run a few back and forth right now. Yeah, it just takes the edge off slightly, but doesn't really do much. And look at that. Planted in polluted ground. That's kind of what happens. It's sucking all the nutrients out, and it looks awful, doesn't it? There's no way you can win with it. There is literally no way you can win with planting trees in a polluted area such as the industrial area. Nothing can happen in terms of solving noise pollution. Again, you can reduce it, but you ain't doing the great work that we've done in other areas. That is not going to happen. Now, other ways you can get around it is then you've got to start thinking, well, what is the cause of the trees dying? It's the ground pollution. So then would you place down something like the Eden Project to get rid of all toxins around the area? Now, that could be a thing, but if I just plant it down, right, that then, like I said, does it get rid of noise pollution in general, that building? It shouldn't do, but it should reduce the pollution over time, if I'm correct in saying. Is it the Eden Project that does that? Increases the city's profile, reduces pollution from land, air, and water. But it says nothing about noise pollution. So pollution itself should heavily start reducing. Now I wonder if that starts reducing and then allows the trees to grow normal, would that then help in reducing sound pollution? Or is just when the trees die and the leaves get removed, is that just a visual change? Or having no leaves on a tree also not make the tree as effective as deflecting sound? Do you see where I'm going with that? It's quite a complex one to kind of unpack. But I suppose we just got to play the waiting game, haven't we? We just got to play the waiting game and ultimately just kind of see what happens. But it's not going to solve anything. I mean, you can do stuff like add in policies that would help you reduce the pollution, the sound pollution. But I think trees are your best friend. Go crazy. Use the Anarchy tool. Get bushes and trees squeezed between those buildings to really maximize it. Only if it's becoming a huge problem, though. Otherwise, it is what it is. It is what it is. But yeah, even like when the pollution's died down to the point where the trees can be grown, noise pollution will never be solved around buildings that are high offenders. But in the small areas where a road is affecting you, in the small areas where some commercial buildings are affecting you, get some trees or bushes down. Trees, if you want it to visually look good. Bushes, if you just want to get them down and kind of have them hidden. They're your friend. They are your friend. But guys, I think we can safely say, trees, bushes work. Rocks, vegetation does not work. And on that note, still use sound barriers. Don't get me wrong, still use sound barriers. But it's just a case if you don't want to go down that road and in other areas where you can't implement sound barriers. Trees, bushes. And on that note, guys, I will see you all soon. If you got any experiments you want me to do in the future, let me know in the comment section down below. But until next time, I'll see you all soon. So, good.